Okay, here is an introduction to the chemistry lab we're doing in association with Science 101. I hope you enjoy it and maybe even learn something from it. The pattern is the same every week. The labs are scheduled for an hour and a half. They really rarely take that long to get through. Just a quick slide on my background if you're interested. Just last month there was an article on my strange life in the Collegian, and there's a link to it as listed here. But call me Mr. T. And because I'm Mr. T, I get to say I pity the fool. And of course, chemicals are great. They serve us in many ways, but we need to be respectful of the hazards that they can represent. And this sheet just tries to quickly outline how we need to be very cautious and respectful of chemicals. And every week, I'll detail for you what kind of protective equipment you're going to need to wear. Now, this rather busy slide lists what we're going to do every week. I condense into just one sentence the nature of each lab, and I hope you find them interesting and, hey, maybe even fun. This week we're going to do a lab, Identify an Unknown, and we'll get into more detail of what's involved. You're graded up to 10 points per lab. You'll find that I'm a very easy grader, but the idea is for you to learn the lexicon of science and the kinds of equipment we use. So just showing up deserves a pretty good grade. But I'm looking for perfection in the lab handout data sheet, your name spelled correctly and all the correct results. And again, if you just pay attention and follow the procedures, you'll be fine. This week's lab is Identify an Unknown. And here's the roadmap to the 6 labs together. I try to condense the title for you. Crime scene investigation. Every lab could have a different name, and we might call this crime scene investigation. Why? Because when you enter the lab, there will be 2 labeled containers. The number needs to go on the data sheet. Your job is to determine what the 2 liquids are. This sheet allows you to use various kinds of measurements and determinations to hone in on what you think the 2 unknowns are. Now, the first kind of test we'll do is solubility. Like dissolves like. There are only 2 kinds of liquids in chemistry. There are polar and nonpolar liquids. Polar liquids are comprised of molecules themselves that are asymmetric. Water is a great example. The thing is, like dissolves like, so your clue is whether or not each of the 2 liquids dissolves into both toluene, a nonpolar organic solvent, and water. The result of that will be indicated by an I, insoluble, or S for soluble on the data sheet. The next determination you'll make is straightforward. The density of each unknown liquid by weighing an empty graduated cylinder and a full one to the 10 milliliter mark. You divide by 10 the net weight, and that determines the density in grams per milliliter. It's another clue that you'll need. Every time you make a determination, feel free to mark up this sheet that will allow you to narrow in on what the 2 unknowns might be by determining solubility in each of the 2 test liquids and the density, and I just mentioned how you're going to do that. If you've done those 2 tests, you should already have narrowed it down to maybe 2 or 3 candidates for each unknown. The final determination then will be boiling point. You'll figure this by immersing a test tube containing a given unknown into boiling water. A thermometer held in place using a split cork will indicate boiling point. As you drive the water to boil, the interior liquid itself will heat up, and carefully watch for bubbling action and a plateauing of the reading of the thermometer. When that's what occurs, you are at the boiling point of the liquid inside. Meanwhile, looking at your data sheet should indicate for you a pretty strong pointing toward what each liquid is. And again, it's important, be logical in how you do the test. You want to lower the 10 milliliters of interior liquid below the water level so that it's heated as efficiently as possible. Again, the lab TA and I will be milling around during the lab to give you guidance and help you through the process. Boiling point then is another piece of information for this table that should help you come to a quick conclusion on what each unknown might be. Every week I'll show you the data sheet and walk you through it. Your name spelled correctly. Partner, if any, you're welcome to work in teams of up to 2. But ironically, you may find that working alone you get through faster than in a team situation. Unknown 1, simply indicate the number of the bottle that you've been issued. Unknown 2 is the second bottle. And then water solubility, I or S, determined by what you've observed. Mass of cylinder, empty and full, the difference divided by 10 gives us density. Boiling point is a straightforward determination as well. Point 4 is your determination of what the unknown might be. The very last question, which of the above unknowns, okay, you have 2, is more non-polar? Like dissolves like, toluene is non-polar, so if you've indicated S for a given unknown, that would be a good candidate for the right answer on the bottom question. When you enter the lab, you'll find 12 identical workstations. They've been equipped with what you need to do the work, and they're all pretty much equal, so go ahead and find a spot where you're comfortable. Your ticket to freedom at the end is the filled out data sheet that goes into the tray that's marked according to your lecture time, 10 a.m. or 1 p.m. Hey, we'll see you shortly and look forward to having you in the lab.